Welcome back, everybody. Episode 24 of the Owl Nest. Things are quickly coming to a close. The final countdown is
I was gonna
approaching.
say, with the last few weeks of games, slow is kind of
Slow is
the word I would
kind
use
of the
too.
word I would use as well. This week was another one. I mean, even though NA still has a whole nother week, I mean, seeding is all but determined, and even this week in APAC, things were pretty much determined. It was like a whole lot of
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the drag of the season's almost over. It's been, 6
Well,
months.
there's that, and then there's also the fact that now, on top of like watching Overwatch League, we can play
Now we can play the
Overwatch
same
2,
game.
and so it's like every time I watch Overwatch League and it's not a good game,
I
it's
just
like,
open Overwatch 2.
I could have played Overwatch 2 instead.
Yeah, I feel that. Let's actually start with Overwatch 2. So it's been a week. It's been out a week.
Oh yeah.
Last time we talked about it, we had a grand total of like, what, 2-3 hours of gameplay, maybe,
Yeah,
if you were
something like
lucky to
that.
get in. But now
I had like 3.
Now
You had,
a week
less.
later, how are we feeling? 7 days after 7 days of playing it? How are we feeling?
I think it's my new favorite game. It is really freaking good. I think people have valid complaints about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sick of all the negativity. I think gameplay wise, like I feel like, there are players that play because they're really into the like the visual aspects of Overwatch, because it does have a
Mm-hmm.
unique visual design. I'm not one of those players. I love the gameplay, and that's why I play. And there's nothing wrong with the other group of people, and I think the fact that they have concerns, that like they're valid concerns. Um
Mm-hmm.
that being said, like from a gameplay standpoint, I love the feel of Overwatch 2. I love the feel of one tank. I think it makes every role feel better. I think support is the one that's harder, but I think the support passive is
It's so
really helpful
helpful.
with that. But I've been playing a lot this last week, and
Mm-hmm.
every single tank player outside of like Doomfist, I'm really enjoying playing. Feels pretty strong in certain situations. And it feels really good. I love this game.
I agree with you on all points. I have been playing a lot of support, but that's just because I love playing Ana. And honestly, it's like before. I know that you have strong opinions against open queue. I don't mind it too much, but maybe that's just because I am fine just playing support. And now having that support passive makes solo healing as like Ana feel so much better. Because in the past, it was like if you were solo healing as Ana, yeah, good luck. If you get hit, you're just gonna die. But now
Yeah.
you just kind of duck around a corner and you're all good. I feel like I've been able to aim better than I did in Overwatch 1, which is weird because a lot of people are saying the opposite about Overwatch 2, that it feels floaty or that the hit detection is off, but I'm like, nah, dude. I'm like cracked out of my mind sometimes. So,
Yeah, and I feel like the way I played tank in Overwatch 1, it actually fits better with Overwatch
yeah,
2
the
than it did
aggressive
Overwatch
playstyle,
1.
I feel the same
The
way.
aggressive playstyle, and then also not relying on healer, like not relying on your supports to heal you. Um, because I've
Mm,
always been one that like lives around health packs. Like I position based off of health packs a lot of the time and stuff.
huh.
And like it.
I have felt like I have to rely a little more on my healers because I don't have another tank to take damage. But at the
Well, I
same
think part of
time,
the
I've been
problem.
able to, because I've always been used to playing aggressive. I play around map geometry very well when playing, especially Reinhardt. So it's
Mhm,
like instead of having another tank, I just use a wall.
yeah,
And I've
I
especially had a
think.
lot of fun playing Orisa. Probably most out of any of the heroes other than Ana, Orisa has been a blast to play.
Yeah, she's been pretty dang awesome. Diva's one that I've been playing a ton of. Um, and Diva's where the health packs really come in handy,
Yeah.
because you have the mobility to get to those. Uh, but yeah, I've loved Diva. I've really enjoyed Reinhardt. Orisa is like really
I love
cool.
Orisa.
Um, and the last couple days I've been playing a lot of Sigma. And Sigma coming into Overwatch 2, like I was a little worried that he wouldn't be all that good because they didn't change anything about him.
Yeah, no, he got no
And I thought
changes.
he really relied on having a second tank because he's not one that like he's not very good close up, and a lot
Hmm.
of the other tanks are, and so I was worried he would just get ran over, which can happen, but he's actually really dang strong.
I think
So,
I think all of the tanks for the most part, outside of like Ball, are relevant in some capacity. Ball just is. If you're
and
playing Ball,
I think Ball, if you know how to play Ball, he's like there's no reason why he can't work.
yeah, if you know how to play him, but the problem is not enough people know how to play him well
Yeah.
enough to because
Um
now that you're the only tank, if you're off doing your own thing, your team's done.
that being said, Doomfist for me, like I disagree about Ball. I think Doomfist is kind of the one that stands out for me because like every time I see Doomfist on an enemy team, I like celebrate because that's free win for me because Doomfist, no one plays Doomfist well. Like I know
That's fair.
Doomfist can be played well. Like I've seen Dante do it occasionally.
Dante and Hawk are the role models of Doomfist
Yeah,
play.
but like in my comp games and stuff, I haven't seen really any good Doomfists,
That's fair.
and I think part of it is like he's pretty easily countered by like single characters.
By Orisa.
But yeah, I mean, you go Orisa into him. If you have an Ana on your team, it's hard to
You have
play
a
him. And
Lucio. Yeah, you just kind of keep him
yeah, so
away.
it's like there are a lot of things that like do really well against him.
Hmm.
And for him to do well, he needs like team coordination. So it's like it's a lot to pull him off, and it's really easy to counter him by a lot of different
I
things.
feel this like the same way a little bit about Hog because if you're playing Hog and the other team has an Ana, you're done
Yeah,
because
I
you don't
mean
have another tank to peel for you. You're
in comp right now, but I feel like once Kiriko gets in, he'll be a little more
yeah, the Kiriko could play by the
realistic.
Hog side.
And plus, I feel like if the enemy team doesn't have an Ana
Then you're
in
feasting.
low elo games, you
You're
can just like
feasting.
yeah.
It's a lot of the wrong. Even though Overwatch 2 was made to be a little less rock paper scissors, I feel like it's still there, but in a good way. It's like it's
Yeah.
very clear. Like okay, you don't have to swap, but it makes it a little easier. Like if the other team is running Zarya, it's probably not ideal to just run Orisa. You
Yeah.
can,
Well,
but it's
that's something I've noticed with the tank,
the tanks
like,
have a very
games that I've
clear.
been playing a lot, is it gets kind of rock, paper, scissory, um, which is one concern I have with character locks and stuff, like, that's something I was thinking about the other day because I noticed, like, there have been a lot of games where it's like, I start out one character, the other, tank starts out as another character, and then one of us swaps, and then the other one swaps to counter that one, and we end up doing this whole thing until we both land on like I don't
Orisa.
know, we both land on Orisa, or we both land on Sigma, or we both land, and it ends up becoming a mirror. And so I just that's one concern I have,
I
but
feel
I
like in the tank
think
role it's
it'll be
okay
fine.
because in the tank role it's a direct 1-to-1. You have full control
Yeah,
over countering the other tank, whereas before it's like you had to rely on your other tank to also potentially swap. So I feel like in the tank role having this rock paper scissors between the two of you isn't the end of the world because you have full control over what the tank line does, and I feel like that
yeah.
helps. The other
Well, and
thing,
plus, usually it's like it's not like I can't remember who it was that said it, but someone said there aren't hard counters, but there are soft counters.
yeah,
And I feel like that's kind of true. Like it's like there aren't matchups that I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is over." You know, if I stay on this character, I'm definitely going to lose. It's just if I stay on this character, I have to
it's
play
harder
that
to
character.
win.
Yeah, and it's adjusting play style and stuff. And I think if you know the matchups, you'll be fine running any tank into any
Mhm.
other tank
Yeah.
usually.
And then the last thing that has become a pretty large topic is the competitive ranking. Uh, they didn't say what they did to it, but clearly something was done to MMR and how that is portrayed in game. it appears like they just kind of compressed a lot of ranks and shifted everybody down a little bit, unless you're like at the top. Because it seems like what appears to be happening is if you were a plat player, you're now a gold player, gold, you're now silver, that kind of thing.
Well, I've seen a lot of plat players end up ranking down to even bronze.
I've seen a lot of bronzes, which has been crazy.
Yeah. Have you finished any of your placements?
I did. So I was in, and my placements basically line up with that because I was mid to high plat on support. I placed mid low gold, and then I was mid low gold DPS and mid low silver. So it's like my placements line up with what my guess is to what they did to it. And then I had buddies who were in diamond or are now in plat. So it seems like they just kind of shifted everyone down by about 1,000 SR or so.
Yeah.
And
I think
1,000.
Honestly, it's like I feel like it's a good thing because like I think some communication probably would have helped, but everyone wanted, not everyone, but a lot of people wanted like
they wanted a reset.
And I think this kind of gives that a little bit, and I think pushing everyone down a little bit it gives people a chance to climb.
Yeah.
Which feels good. So I think, like the idea of all of the changes they've made to comp so far have been to, help make it feel less miserable. And I think one of the things that a lot of people struggled with is on a new account, when you ranked for the first time, almost everyone I talked to, like, you almost always end up like low gold, high silver, right? Unless you do really well. But like for first time, like brand new players, usually it's like low gold. But then a lot of players, as they actually play more, they, aren't gold players and they get pushed down to bronze, and then it's miserable because they feel like, I was gold, now I'm bronze, I must be going downhill. And so rather than feeling like you're progressing forward, you feel like you're progressing down. And that's not a good feeling.
By just starting down, it removes that problem.
It removes that problem, and it allows them a chance to
climb up instead.
To grow up, to climb up, to not have that initial drop.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I think overall for new players it's going to be really good. And I think for old players,
you just gotta get used to it.
Climb. Like, I think it's cool climbing.
I do know that a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but I have seen it circulate around the community that the rank up system is a bit wonky. Of like, even if you win the 7 games, it still doesn't move you. I imagine Blizzard will do some tweaking over the next couple weeks for the competitive system, whether it be changing how it's portrayed visually, changing what requirements for rank up. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because I was like high gold, mid high gold in tank at the end of the last season.
Mm-hmm.
And then in placing, because I don't play comp much.
Yeah,
Overwatch 2, I was going to play a bunch of comp, and I did my tank placements, and I did my next. So after the first 2 sets of games, I was 14-5, and 2 of those 5 I had DCs on my team, and a couple of the wins I had DCs on my team too.
Mm-hmm.
And I initially got placed like bronze 3.
Yeah.
And then I went up to like silver 1 or 2. Silver 3 or 4.
Bronze 3. I haven't finished my tank placements.
Man, it was.
That's so
and
funny.
So I wonder if tank's a little more skewed down, but I don't know. When it first happened, I didn't know that other people were all getting pushed down.
You were like, no way.
And so I saw that and I was like, seriously? Because I was 7-2. I was 7-2, I think.
You were like, no way, I'm a bronze player. No way.
I was like, yeah, this is not fun. But then I saw and everyone else was doing it, and I was like, I thought about it more, and I was like, this is a really good thing. Like, even though it sucks to feel like, hey, like, I'm not worse at this game than the other game. I feel like I'm playing better. I'm winning games better. But
that's funny.
It is what it is.
Anyways, enough talk about Overwatch 2. This game will be out for the next foreseeable future. So, moving on. So, I'm going to be realistic here. Truthfully, there was only one match this week that was like exciting to watch for me.
Yep.
And that was the Battle for Texas version 14?
Something like that.
And once again, the Houston Outlaws really, wow. Okay. All right, Outlaws. That was not expected. I mean, I didn't even pred them. I don't think anybody, I mean, Mr. X predded him, but I don't think Mr. X genuinely predded the Outlaws.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
mean,
think, going into this, everyone knew like Fuel are number one right now. Like Fuel are number one right now. And then Outlaws come out and do what they did. It's like, are Fuel number one right
well,
now?
and
Like,
it's funny because Dante talks about this, and I think Hawk tweeted about it at the end of the weekend. This like Lucio Bap Zarya comp literally like materialized overnight. It like showed
Yeah.
up on like Friday, and even Dante said like they changed their comp and warm-ups because it used to be a bunch of double flex. You do like the Zen Ana with the Zarya is what Fuel were doing a lot of. But then suddenly it's Lucio Bap, and the Outlaws made the Fuel look a little silly on a Zarya mirror. I mean, Dante basically outplayed Hanbin.
Yeah, which was crazy because I mean, we even before this week we had like last week's episode we had a little debate about the
The MVP
about
nominations.
about Dante playing Zarya.
Oh yeah, I said I
About
wanted to
whether or
see
not
it.
he would, and I was like, it's not gonna happen, and like
I was
I don't know
convinced. I
they'll
was
be
like,
all that
surely
good.
they do it.
And he did, and he looked pretty dang good on it. Like I mean, Dante, he's just such a good
An actual
freaking
flex
Overwatch player.
god. Like the
Yeah,
Outlaws played so like confidently in this match. Like it was
yeah,
pedal to the metal, catching just running over Fuel, just
yeah.
endlessly.
They made the Fuel look like the Defiant.
Mid.
Just like boring, and like they were there, they played, and they weren't like throwing, but they just
Yeah,
were
no, and a
outclassed.
large thing. It's like Fuel opted into playing Sparkle Tracer, and
Yeah,
whereas the Outlaws decided, no, we're gonna play Pelican Genji, and I feel like that had a big difference in how the pace went, because it's like a
yeah.
Genji has a lot more burst damage than a Tracer does, because
Well,
you,
and I think the Genji ult is a bigger threat largely than the Tracer
yeah, you
ult.
don't pull out a sound barrier, you don't bait out a sound barrier with a pulse bomb.
Yeah, and it's like if you get a pick with a pulse bomb,
Nice.
like that's awesome, and it can win fights, before
Hmm.
they even start. But the Genji ult is so good at pulling out those support ultimates and stuff that it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
I
Outlaws just
think it's
played
for the
so
better.
well, and the fact that they beat the Fuel at a Zarya comp, um, couldn't believe that they beat them again, because now Fuel will have not beaten the Outlaws this season. And
Yeah,
unless they play each other in playoffs, the Fuel, regardless of where they go, will have beaten everybody but the Outlaws this season. Which is
yeah,
crazy to think about, considering how the Fuel have been this year. I mean, they've only lost 4 games. 2 of those were to Houston.
crazy.
Whoa, you're like, what in the world is going on here? So, go Outlaws. Granted,
Yeah.
I mean, what does this mean for the Outlaws? That means in this snapshot of time, arguably the best team in the world. However, this is the Outlaws we're talking about, so give them 2 weeks
Well,
and they'll come back down to earth.
and the big thing is this week there, like you mentioned before, there was kind of this like big shift in meta out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like this new comp popped up. Outlaws adapted. Dallas didn't necessarily. Dallas next week could show up playing, you know, better than the Outlaws did, and it wouldn't surprise me. So I think,
Dallas don't have any matches left.
oh yeah, that's true.
And
But
so,
okay,
like, Dallas will never, this meta probably will
yeah, that's true.
never, won't matter anymore because we'll go into a Kiriko
Yeah.
patch. So it's like,
So
this meta may not even matter. We don't know
yeah,
what Kiriko is going to do, what patch changes might come through for playoffs. But if it is something along these lines, then, give Fuel some time and they'll figure it out. But I mean, I hope the Outlaws are able to keep up this performance, but they're the Outlaws. So I got to temper my expectations because this team doesn't know how to maintain. I mean, for all we know, they'll come out next week and lose to the Mayhem. Like,
yeah.
I don't know what to say about it.
The one other game, and we didn't add this to our list of things we were going to talk about, but I just I wanted to bring up as an honorable mention as Pain. What the heck, Eternal Titans? Like Titans not as good as we once thought.
Oh man,
That was kind of painful.
I went to that game Avast. I remember Avast being all like, "No, this won't be a toilet bowl," and then it turned into a toilet bowl, and you're like, "No, no, neither of these teams have anything to play for."
Is like Vancouver had climbed, a lot, and they were looking really impressive, and I thought maybe they'll just stomp over Paris, and then like as the match went on,
to be fair, in Vancouver's defense, Massa wasn't with the team. He had to go back to Finland, and from what it sounded like Titans did most of their scrims and stuff with Massa. So suddenly not being able to play Lucio comps, because Massa was in a vast stream and was talking about that, so it sounded like Titans just weren't able to play what they had practiced. So I feel like that gives him a little bit of leeway, because it's like,
I guess that makes
a key
sense.
player, because it's like he's the key shot caller for the team, and he's your Lucio player. And if you're playing these Zarya comps and you can't play Lucio, well, you're kind of screwed. So
yeah, that's true. And and the thing about Paris is like we give them a lot of crap, and they're the worst team, but they do have moments of like okayness,
of competency.
I won't say greatness, but they have moments of okayness.
Good job, Paris. You're sometimes okay.
Good job. Sometimes you're okay.
With all one of your wins, you're sometimes okay. So NA was weird. APAC though continues to the bitter end. Even in the final week, they decide to do some weird things. Now, granted, Seoul, I wouldn't be surprised if Seoul didn't really do any prep this week because they had the number 1 seed in APAC locked up.
Yeah.
But granted, that mean they lost to Fusion as well, their like seeding internationally may have been at stake. I think they I don't know. Things are weird. I mean, when we
just rough. They lost to Spark 3-2, and then
they go to 5 against a Carpe Fusion.
And then Spark got destroyed by Guangzhou. So it's like you watch the first match and you're like, man, Spark are cooking. They're killing it. And then
back to their old ways. The Spark are 2-12 in their last 14 matches. It's
terrible. But one of those two is
Seoul Dynasty. The other one is an LA Valiant team.
Yeah, so
speaking of the Valiant, poor Valiant. They were so close. I mean, looking at the standings, they were literally, once they lost the Charge, I was like, oh, they're going to get rolled by Dragons. It's over.
Yeah.
And they weren't even as competitive against Charge as I thought they would have been.
Yeah, it was
But APAC is finished. The season standings are finished. And what I find to be the funniest thing is that Fusion and Third have a sub 500 win percentage. Third place in APAC, they're 11-13.
Freaking APAC.
I don't know what's going on with this region. All I know is that Seoul Dynasty are good, and Dragons hopefully will get their stuff together. But then, like, everything under those two, I'm like, does any other team have a hope of like being good in this region? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they're done. Like the season is done. Chengdu Hunters have suddenly just become a terrible team after they were like looking okay, and then they just got booty bopped by everyone else. Spark have continuously been bad. The only team I think that can challenge Shanghai and Seoul is Guangzhou, because Guangzhou haven't done anything recently to suggest that they're not good. Their only 2 losses this stage came to Dynasty and came to Hunters in the week 1, I think, and it was in a 5-map set. Other than that, the Charge have won 4 straight, or maybe not 4 straight, but like have won against 4 of the other, all 4 of the remaining teams, including 3 of the 4 teams above them. So if there was ever a team in APAC that might be able to challenge Seoul, it might be Charge. But Seoul, I think, are so far ahead of everyone else that maybe not. But this week proved, I mean, I don't know what they were doing with the Prophet Ana, but hey, I mean, I guess if you have nothing to lose, might as well try it, right?
Yeah.
Might as well try it for APAC. It's kind of weird. And then like we look over the NA standings, and Gladiators have jumped Shock. Shock have a chance.
Yeah, which, let's just put this into perspective this way. You have a team that up until like a couple of weeks ago, everyone was like, they might have a perfect regular season.
And they've
is now behind a team that didn't make one of the tournaments.
Yeah, Shock.
I mean, they won 2 of the splits, but
Shock or not,
on.
they're having problems. I mean, this next week they have it easy. I mean, they play London and they play Paris.
Offended.
They play
London,
They
easy.
play the Paris. No, they play Boston. Just kidding. What's the difference though? I mean, when you're the Shock, Boston, Paris, what's the difference?
But Shock showing weakness going into a London game.
What if London done this stage? They beat the Titans in the Eternal and then got 3-0 bopped by the Gladiators and Fuel. I don't know how I feel about that one.
Gladiators Fuel right now versus Shock right now. I think London has a chance, but I mean, not to reveal my pred yet, but
so it's like most of NA is locked up. The only thing not confirmed is obviously some like various seeding stuff because Boston, Florida, and Toronto all have remaining matches. So does London, Houston. So like Houston isn't moving. Houston is guaranteed 4 seed because they're so many points ahead of everyone else and below them. But yeah, it's that 6th seed between London and Defiant. Between London and Toronto that it'll come down to this week. Justice doesn't have any matches, so if Florida is able to win one of their matches, they can jump Justice and take the 8th seed. If they win both of them, then depending on what Defiant does, Florida could actually jump Defiant. Boston has no hope of moving it. They're 10 seed.
London, they just need one win.
London just needs to win one, either against New York or Shock, because then, Defiant can only tie their point total.
They're going to lose to New York and then beat Shock.
I mean, Shock would have nothing to play for. I don't know. All I know is that this basement dweller, man. Vancouver, you were so close. I feel like Vancouver and Valiant are in like a similar spot. Like a terrible start to the season, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, there's some life, and then they just trip and fall. They're right at the end.
It's really tragic. Because it would have been so cool to have Titans there.
They wouldn't have done anything.
They wouldn't have, but it would have been fun.
Would have been fun.
You know?
But no, right now, I think the Dallas Fuel have locked up the number 1 seed internationally because Gladiators are done with matches, and even though Shock can tie their point total, Fuel have a better match win percentage, which includes tournament matches.
Yeah.
So the Shock cannot upseed the Fuel. The Shock, though, just need to win one match, and they'll jump the Gladiators and take the 2 seed back. So Shock are looking to at least to win one, if not both of their games, to take the 2 seed back. And I believe, when I look back at the APAC, so if Shock win both of their games, they can actually take the 2 seed internationally, because Dynasty's sitting at 25. So currently, internationally, I believe it goes Fuel, Dynasty, Gladiators, Shock. But if Shock win 2, then they will jump over Dynasty and take the 2 seed internationally. But our top 4 is solidified. I don't think, the top 4 is not changing at all.
Yeah.
In fact, the top 5 isn't changing. The top 6 isn't changing at all. Currently, Fuel, Dynasty, Gladiators, Shock, Dragons, Outlaws are your top 6, and those aren't changing because Reign are done with their matches and are 3 points behind the Outlaws. So, but Spitfire can jump the Reign. If they win both their matches, they will take the 5th seed in NA. So there you go, Spitfire. There's your reason to hope. Let's jump to some power rankings, our favorite. Don't we love power rankings?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I feel like after this week, we might be able to... Do we remove both tier breaks under Dynasty or only one?
I have a 1 tier break add or removal policy per week.
Okay.
And so let's remove 1.
Do we think their map 5s this week were flukes?
Okay, actually, let's remove both.
Yeah, I was like, I think when you go to 5 against the worst team in your region, it doesn't look too good.
Yeah,
okay, I think we move Hunters underneath Dragons.
Yeah.
And I think Fusion goes above Hunters, but do you think they jump Dragons?
Not at this point. My question, after this week, do Charge pass Soul?
No. I think Charge are doing great, but it's like when you take into account that Dynasty really didn't have a whole lot to like, they were doing weird things as well. I mean, the Prophet Ana, like I don't imagine we see Prophet Ana again. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I don't know. That's gonna be their playoff special.
Prophet's gonna come out on Kiriko. The Prophet Kiriko. No, I think Dynasty is still above Charge, but Dynasty, Charge, Dragons, Fusion, Hunters, Valiant, Spark. Spark are just, oh my goodness. This team, if this team does anything, I will be very, Pineapple came out swinging. I think that was like, the first time we saw Pineapple?
I think so.
I remember I tuned into the match and I was like, wait, who's this guy? Where's Alpha E? Where'd he go? I like APAC. APAC is fun. All right, North America.
Keeps things interesting.
Number one.
I think we remove the tier break between Dallas and Outlaws.
And then Outlaws jump Dallas. No, you can't. There's no argument saying that can't be done. They literally just beat them in a 3-1.
Yeah, but like I've said this before. But just because Team A
power
beats Team B
power
doesn't mean
rankings are snapshots of time.
Yeah, but okay, Outlaws Gladiators. Does Outlaws win that more than Fuel wins that?
I feel like they probably both win those similar amounts.
I think Outlaws is less consistent. Like even this week, I would say Outlaws going forward is going to be less consistent. I
but
think
the meta
Fuel
changes.
is still the better team. But I think even with meta changes, like I don't think you can account for those really. But I think, just because Outlaws have 1 week that they beat Fuel.
But it's not that they just went to 5. It was a 3-1.
Yeah.
It was a 3-1. And they also have beaten Shock as well. They beat a Shock team. And then they 3-1 the Fuel.
Isn't looking like
there is no reasonable argument for this snapshot power rankings and time to place Fuel above Outlaws. Especially
I'll let you put Outlaws on top, but I very much disagree.
I 100% agree. Outlaws are going to blow it. But for right now.
But I think for right now, Fuel is still the better team.
Fuel are
just
not
because they
team.
Lost doesn't mean.
If this meta was played again, Outlaws would win again.
I think Fuel would win. If you gave the Fuel and the Outlaws a week to prepare, if they played next week,
I'd pred Outlaws.
With the same thing, I would pred Fuel every time.
I would pred Outlaws this time because they've shown they can actually do it. They pulled out the Dante Zarya like I asked them to.
Yeah, but I doubt the Fuel was expecting the Dante Zarya going into this week.
They watched Dante play Zarya literally the day before.
Yeah, against who? Nobody?
Paris.
Exactly. Nobody?
No. Outlaws, I think, would still be able to win it. Anyways, I don't think that there's a tier break between Fuel and Glads, though.
No, I think there's no tier break separating anywhere in that top bunch because I think they're all kind of...
I think
there's a natural progression.
I think those top 5 teams are pretty... I think it's those top 5 teams and then a tier break. I feel like Outlaws through Rain... Woo! Yeah, Outlaws through Rain, I think, belong there. And then a tier break. And then we get into the weird zone. So London didn't play any matches, and then last week they got goose-egged. London's weird. Here's what I'm going to say about the Spitfire. If they insist to continuously play Hottie, I don't think it's going to go well for them. It's literally an off-tank meta, and they're choosing to play Hottie over Poco.
Yeah.
And it doesn't,
And I think the reason why is they always look... Their best moments are when Hottie's in. But with this meta...
Especially with how much it's developed, it's like if Hottie's in and all he's able to play is Winston, D.Va rolls Winston.
Yeah. Which is interesting because you would think it would be the other way around. Where
I think it's just because of D.Va's damage buff.
Because,
she just
and seriously, her damage buff is insane. There are a couple things in the game right now that I'm like, this is going to get nerfed, and
D.Va's damage is one of
them. I think there's 2 choices they have. They can either nerf her damage or nerf her defense matrix.
It'll probably be damage though, because her matrix.
It should be damage.
It should be damage.
If they nerf the matrix and keep the damage, I'll be pissed.
That'll be a little weird.
And keep playing D.Va. But I'll be angry.
So it's the Spitfire end, because it's like if Spitfire played Justice or Defiant, I honestly wouldn't, in confidence, pick Spitfire over those 2, because Justice and Defiant both are playing off tanks who are. But if Spitfire played Poco, they'd be fine. But they have not shown that they are willing to play Poco consistently.
That being said, they have had a week off.
They have
to
had a
kind of
week
prep,
off.
and
I would hope that they've adjusted.
I'm hoping they've been scrimming and practicing with Poco.
Yeah, because if I see Hottie in the starting lineup next week, I'm gonna be like, "Uh oh, Spitfire, better watch out."
Yeah.
Like,
I think they'll still get their one win.
I don't. It's not so much. Even if they don't get their one win, Defiant have to beat the Outlaws and the Mayhem. I think it's more likely that Defiant aren't able to win out than it is for Spitfire to like. I think Spitfire are fine because Defiant I don't think are going to be able to win out. They're going to lose somewhere along the line. However, if Spitfire and Defiant played, I'd probably lean towards Defiant a little slightly. Maybe? Only because of I don't know if Spitfire will play Poco. I definitely would pick the Justice over the Spitfire, though. If I'm being honest. I think the Justice are a better team currently.
Yeah.
They've been playing quite well. I think Defiant and Spitfire are probably at about the same place.
Mm-hmm.
And then Boston, I think, is... Would we say Boston's in the same tier as those three, though? I mean,
when they play against similar teams, they have similar results. So it's like when Boston played Washington Justice, it went to 5. And I think Boston slightly worse than them, but still in the same tier. They aren't
same tier.
They aren't down with like
Titans,
NYXL, Titans, Mayhem, Eternal.
So then with I think Mayhem though looked a little better this week. Mayhem's biggest.
I think they jumped Titans.
I think they might even be able to jump New York. My problem with Mayhem, my problem is they can't play Diva to save their lives. Checkmate cannot play Diva. If only they had an off-tank player. If only, right?
If only.
So it's like I think Mayhem would be able to. Would they be able to take down Boston? I think they'd be able to take down Boston. I almost think Mayhem goes into that middle group.
I'll hold off. Like I would hold off.
I'd hold off until they play.
Yeah, I think give them a week. I mean, they've been looking pretty okay, but I still like.
I mean, they went to 5. They went to 5 against Rain.
Yeah, but they also
went to 5 against Titan. Wait, didn't they? Someone went to 5 against Titans. That shouldn't have.
They went 5 against Titans, I think.
Like, yeah, Mayhem are a bit weird.
They didn't play the week before.
No, because they play next week. They play Defiant and Outlaws next week, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Florida go 1-1.
The week before that, they got 3-0'd by Boston. So it's
that doesn't look too good.
Yeah, so I would hold off on moving them up.
I think after this week, I think do we? No, I don't think Titans. Well, no. Do we think Titans go into the Paris zone after their abysmal performance this week?
Get rid of the tier break.
You think Paris deserves to be in the same tier as New York and Florida?
No, I think there's a progression down. I think New York and Titans are both bad.
Because when you
Titans and
when you look at New York's performance this stage, though, it actually hasn't been horrible. Like they got bopped by Rain, but they went to 5 against Glads. They went to 5 against Defiant. They've kind of been punching up a little bit.
Okay, let's move tier break up.
Moved it to it's Titans into the Eternal Zone.
Titans. I view it less like the Titans moving down
and more like
the tier break is moving up.
It's
kind of like I didn't fall into bronze, silver.
Bronze, silver moved
up to me.
Bronze, silver caught up to me. I didn't get worse. The bronze, silver set a higher standard.
That's
so funny. I agree with these rankings, though. I think you could make an argument that Rain don't deserve to be with Shock, but then again, Rain had to get reverse swept in order to lose. My worry with Shock, though, is that they beat the Rain, but they beat the Rain playing their Sigma comp, and I don't think that's gonna work.
Yeah.
Luckily, they're not having to play Glads or Fuel or Outlaws in this next week, but they can't just force Sigma and expect to win, especially when we move into the postseason. They need
Sigma's good enough. I'm just kidding. Especially with, I feel like Kiriko and Sigma don't have the type of synergy.
No, because Kiriko's like a rush. You rush with Kiriko. Sigma does not rush very well.
Yeah, and Kiriko's got a few options, but I don't feel like any of them are good Sigma stuff because her shots are extremely hard to hit range.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, I guess you could poke
And
with her,
so-
but I feel like she's a mid-range poke. You'd play her with
Yeah.
like a Reinhardt comp, or you'd play her with a. You could play her with an Orisa. I mean, I
feel
like she
like
could be
Reinhardt, Zarya, Orisa, Hog. Which, how fun would it be if they had a Hog meta?
both. Well, we're going back to 2020 again. 2020 playoffs.
Yeah, what you do? You go Kiriko, Lucio,
Hog,
Reaper,
May. That sounds terrible. Gladiators would love that because Reiner would just be able to play Hog. No, I hope we don't get. I
don't think it's.
I hope we don't get a Hog meta. Please no. So I'm happy with these power rankings.
I don't think it will, but
I'm happy with these power rankings. Not a whole lot will change next week unless Outlaws do their normal thing and like lose to Mayhem or Defiant. Spitfire could move if they lose to Excelsior. They won't move if they lose to Shock because Shock's above them. Florida could move up depending on how they do. Same with Boston. All that's really determined this week is seeding for play-ins and then that final play-in spot between London and Toronto. So it's the final week of stuff. So I think now it's time for some Preds. I forgot to change which week it was in the power rankings. Ignore that.
Oh,
so
yikes.
first, APAC is obviously having their play-ins, which is all of 2 games. Are we both in agreement that Charge is probably just going to waltz on through this?
Yeah.
Like if Charge don't just waltz on through this, I'll be a little concerned. I mean, Hunters or Spark could just show up, but like on paper coming into this, Charge should be able to walk over them.
That's the thing about APAC is it's like you never know what teams you're actually going to see. Like the teams that they've been playing as or the teams that they decide to pull out in playoffs. And so like it'll be interesting. It should be the Charge with the way things have been going, but I wouldn't put money on it.
Well, luckily, it is the same meta that Countdown Cup was played on. So it's like we're not going to see anything weird. So Charge shouldn't see anything weird, but then again, this is the Chengdu Hunters that we're talking about. This is Chengdu Hunters in an elimination match. They might go weird.
Roadhog? I'm just kidding.
The Gaga Roadhog or the Daisy? I don't think so. The Bernard Roadhog? Nah, we see the Piggy Roadhog, you know? So Charge should make that out. I'm not really, that happens this weekend. But now there are 8 remaining matches in the regular season for North America. 8.
And I'm up 2 for the year.
And Brett is sitting up 2 Preds on me. So I am going to have to go a little funky on some of these Preds. Not necessarily because I believe they'll actually happen, but because I need to gain lost ground. So this is going to be interesting. So we're going to just do all 8 because there's only 8. This weekend I feel like might go fast with matches just because there's only 8. So here we go. The first opening match of the week, New York Excelsior versus London Spitfire.
Bet you can't guess why I'm going for London Spitfire.
What I feel like this one would come down to is if New York feels like they have anything to play for. Because they don't in terms of seeding. Like, they're out. But if they feel like they want to try and play spoiler, or they want to try and hold roster spots, because, I mean, that's what they've been doing. I mean, they've been out of play-in contention for a few weeks now. And, I mean, they took Gladiators to 5. Now, granted, were Gladiators trying? Regardless, it's the Gladiators.
Yeah.
So it's like if Yaki has a Yaki moment again, London Spitfire don't have a Kevster.
Exactly. And I think if London hasn't figured out kind of their tank situation stuff, this game is scary. Like this game,
because I need to make ground, I'm gonna go with the New York Pred off of the basis that London may just run hottie and Yaki may just be like, screw your team, I'm gonna win.
Yeah, and if it were the last tournament cycle, that would be a crazy Pred. But with the way these two teams have been looking right now,
when it's
this has the potential to be a really close
when
game.
All we have of London is losing a map to Titans in Paris and then getting rolled by Gladiators and Fuel, you're like, oh, are they good? A lot of people don't think they're good. I mean, I'm pretty sure Avast has them like second to last.
Yeah.
So that's my first different Pred, which I feel like if Yaki shows up, London could be in for a long game.
Yeah.
Because they don't have a Happy or a Kevster to try and combat him like Glads
They
did.
have Sparker. But more importantly, they have Backbone. Backbone Genji gonna carry.
All right.
Backbone's gonna get player of the match.
Next game. Oh, this game is a snooze fest. Even I'm not crazy enough to. Paris Eternal versus San Francisco
I
Shock.
know, you sure you don't want to pred Paris?
No, Shock. Oh man, I hope that
Shock take it.
I hope that
Easy.
Shock just clean this up quick so we can get this dumpster fire of a game off of
I
our
think
screens.
Worst case scenario for Shock, they lose a map.
They lose a map.
Or two.
Watch them go to 5.
If they go to 5, they'll still win it, so it'll be fine. But
that would be so funny if they went to 5. All right.
Preds.
Now the next one. This one actually has implications for seeding. Florida Mayhem, Toronto Defiant. This one actually is a good game even despite other things, because Defiant are the definition of mid, and Mayhem are trying to get some higher seeding. I don't know. I mean, Florida have the crux. Like they can't play Diva, but Toronto isn't. Have they been playing a lot of Diva? I don't remember. No, they were playing Zarya, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
They were doing like the Zarya Sombra stuff with Hisu, but then again, if this Lucio Bap comp is what's going on, you're putting Chorong on Lucio and you got a Twilight Bap.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Florida here just because I feel like Florida has the potential to show up when in games that matter, and they don't win all the games that matter, but like you look at the way they've looked in the last couple playoffs, like they always seem to like win a few more than they should. And I think especially against a close team like this close to playoffs with seeding on the line, I think if there was a chance for Florida to like show up and win a match, I think this is going to be it. And I think so because of that, I think Florida's my choice.
And I don't think I think what it's going to come down to is tank play, because if it's the Zarya meta, Habba's a better Zarya than someone because someone is having to flex between everything. And then it would come down to like Hisu versus Hydron, which I feel like is a fairly even matchup if they're both feeling themselves. But then it checkmate versus probably Although, but I guess it depends on if Defiant decides they want to go Tracer, if they want to go Genji. Although the Defiant backline is kind of crazy. I want to give it to Defiant because I feel like I think if London loses to New York early in the day, Defiant are gonna have a reason to really play their hearts out in this game, because then they'll be like, oh, we still have a shot at that 6th seed. So I'm gonna pred Defiant, but it should be this should go to 5, unless Defiant just put on their mid pants and lose horrendously and then show up later.
Or if Florida just doesn't show up, like
if they just misread things, I don't know. All right, next one. Shock versus Spitfire. How high are you on the Spitfire goop?
Not that high. Yeah. I've got to go Shock for this one.
I think so as well.
I think if Shock are still, there is a world where London wins. And just because I'm predding Shock probably means they will win. And so that's kind of my hope.
Well, and what's funny is if New York, if they beat New York, London actually has literally nothing to play for. So I feel like this would
they have the momentum of coming off a win from the Shock going into playoffs.
2 weeks later, the 2-week momentum carry.
I mean, but it does a lot to mental. Like if your last game of the season is a win against the top team, that's huge for the mental. And I think, if Shock are trying to force like Sigma comps and London just
plays Ryan,
I mean, maybe
Ryan kind of rolls Sigma. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, or if they're playing Poco and they've kind of figured out their jam and stuff. Like I think there are a few scenarios where London wins this, but I think Shock will have their stuff figured out.
Shock may be trying to play for that higher seating, I would imagine. Yeah. So they probably
plus it's the last game of the season that was supposed to be their perfect season. Like I think
You think they're
That
bitter?
alone will be enough. I mean, they might be. I would be. I wouldn't be surprised if that's why they've lost so many recently. Is just the fact that like
Yeah,
they're upset. But I think they should be able to
they should be able to
drive
win it.
that into a win.
All right, second after the matinee game of Saturday, New York Excelsior versus Boston Uprising. This one is interesting because neither of these teams have anything to play for.
Yeah.
Boston can't move in seeding, and New York has already been like New York can't even play spoiler here. Like New York doesn't even have a reason to play this game, other than pride.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think New York will win this.
I think
New
I want
York's been
to
looking
agree
like a
with you.
better team
Yeah.
recently. I think Boston has some some real power behind it, but I think New York. I mean, Yaki on a good day is just insane, and I think Boston doesn't really have anything to
No,
kind of
unless Valentine.
like. I feel like New York on their high points are higher than
much
Boston
higher
at
than
their high
Boston.
point.
Boston's not taking Gladiators to 5.
Yeah, and so I think like it should be a New York win, but it could go either way.
And if it goes either way, it doesn't really affect anybody.
Yeah.
All right.
Also, before we go forward, I want one last note on the Shock game.
Okay.
Okay. If Shock loses to London this week,
That'd be awesome.
Proper doesn't deserve MVP.
We can have
Rookie of the year, yes. Rookie of the year, yes. No MVP.
I mean, I'm already thinking he's kind of. I mean, we can talk about that next week.
We'll talk about it later.
All right.
But
final game Saturday: Florida Mayhem, Houston Outlaws. I mean, if the Outlaws play like they just did, Florida, good luck, buddy.
Yeah, I mean,
it would be an Outlaws thing to lose this game. They also have no reason to play, so honestly, Doge could come and play this game. But it's like, do the Outlaws want to just carry momentum? Because I mean, if they want momentum, they could pound Mayhem and Defiant into the ground.
I'm beating you in Preds for the year.
You're gonna go with the Mayhem?
I'll give you the opportunity.
No way.
By betting Florida, because
Oh,
I think it would be glorious if the thing that like drove the nail in the coffin for me beating you this year
was the Outlaws?
Houston losing to Mayhem. Like how just tragic would that be for you? And so,
all right,
yeah, I'm predding Florida.
Fair enough. All right, then Paris Eternal Boston Uprising. My goodness, this is a sad game.
I mean,
do you
Boston
think Paris can come out on a win? You think they can end their season on a win, double their win total?
I mean, a couple weeks ago, Boston beat out Florida. Or was it Florida? Yeah, I think it was. Like Boston isn't like
no, they're not a bad team. I'm just
terrible
saying,
right now.
I'm just saying at this state in time, you think Paris like we need to win? No way. I think you're right. No way. This has the potential to be a really bad game though. If Boston play down to their competition, this has the chance to be a really bad game.
Yeah.
Right.
My guess it goes to 5. Boston wins.
Yeah. All right, and then the final game of the regular season, which, depending on how some other games before it go, could actually mean something. Maybe. It would require a lot to go right for the Defiant, but Defiant theoretically could be coming into this game against the Outlaws fighting for the number 6 seed. So.
Yeah, true.
But I'm sticking to my guns. I think the Outlaws win it. I think they.
Okay, so right now, how many different Preds do we have?
We have 3.
We have 3 different ones going into this. Okay, then I'll agree with you. If we had an even number, I wanted to make sure there's no way we can.
There's no way we can tie.
I think Houston wins this.
No, watch one
I'll
of the
pred
ones
against Houston once, but I'm not going to do it
watch the
twice.
Outlaws Mayhem game go to like 6 or 7 maps, and it goes like super drawn out, like the closest you can get to a draw in the Overwatch League. Oh man,
that's the dream. But yeah, I think it goes to Houston.
I think the more so it's like so we've got 3 different matches that we're predding. So we're split on New York London. We're split on Mayhem Defiant, right? No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're split on Mayhem Defiant. I went Defiant. and then we're
Mayhem.
split on Outlaws Mayhem. Simply,
Well, I predicted Mayhem going
twice.
2-0 this week. What the heck is wrong with
you
me?
have Mayhem jumping into the, which seed would that be? They would jump into, you have Mayhem jumping into the 8th seed, potentially the 7th seed if Defiant just go winless.
Which I also have Predit, so
What?
I've Predit against the Defiant.
Oh yeah, you have Predit Mayhem to
so
jump.
I've Predit Mayhem jumping Toronto
and Washington.
Yeah.
You have
I'll
Mayhem.
stand by it.
You have
I will
Mayhem
stand
jumping into the 7th seed. I mean, that
Because
would be fun.
Think about this. Mayhem knocked out my London last tournament, which means they're like a top tier team.
That's funny. Although, I mean, you literally only predated them against the Outlaws out of spite, almost.
No, it was out of dedication to Florida.
But it wasn't a pred out of you genuinely think the Mayhem will win. It's like you want to make sure that we're not tied.
I think Florida is the better team.
Let me look at our power rankings. Yeah, that checks out.
the best team 2022.
Let me look at our power rankings.
Sponsored by Florida. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that checks out. Florida Mayhem down there in what is that, like 10th place?
Yeah, but if you flip it upside down, they're pretty close to the top.
4th.
Yeah.
Outlaws are dead last. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And London are middle of the pack. Wait a minute. Are London are exactly mid.
That's tragic.
They're 7 out of 13.
That's okay. I'll be the one laughing when they win the whole thing.
Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So ahead of us this week, we have play-ins for APAC and the final regular season matches for NA. So next week, there may not be a whole lot to talk about other than the fact that we will know where we stand with Preds. We'll probably do some MVP conversations depending on how things go with matches.
I'll give you guys an update on how high I've climbed in ranked.
Out of bronze?
I mean, I'm already out of bronze. I'm in silver.
Sure you are.
Silver player.
Sure
silver.
You are.
Yeah. Silver 3 over here. Yeah, baby.
Silver 3 Roadhog player or something.
Yeah, right. No,
goodness.
I play characters of class.
You play honest Overwatch?
Honest Overwatch.
Not Roadhog.
I play Reinhardt and
Diva honest
and
Overwatch.
And actually, like every tank except Doomfist.
You play ball
and Wrecking Ball.
I was like, you play ball. That's 3 of the tanks.
Yeah, those 3 don't count. No, I haven't touched Zarya because I don't like playing as Zarya. I know she's good, and I've gotten her in like a few of the arcade games I've played, and it's like she feels really good right now. But I've just never played much Zarya.
Fair enough. Well, we hope you all enjoy this final week of regular season matches and play-ins. We'll catch you all next week to recap the action. We'll see you.
Bye.